Huey Long served as the governor of Louisiana and later senator from 1928 to 1935. He championed the anti-New Deal leftist movement and his radical Share Our Wealth program via an unconventional style and target demographic. He gave many poor people hope during the Great Depression and in a way became their hero. While his death halted the progress of the populist movement at the time, his breaking of the barrier against campaigning for the working class has influenced the modern political climate. During the 1890s, Louisiana had a huge populist movement. Populism, as an ideology, is based on appealing to everyday people. It always advocates putting the majority before the few. However, the rest of the United States was unlike Louisiana. The rich detested populism due to its invalidation of a caste system, while others believed it was uncivilized. Populism was popular among the working class, due to the direct appeal of their demographic. After the 1896 presidential election, populism faded as an ideology due to the Democratic Populist Coalition candidate William Jennings Bryan's loss of the election. In spite of this, populism remained a strong concept in Louisiana. Huey Long, a Louisiana native who had become a successful lawyer, wanted to climb his way up the political ladder, hoping someday to become president. With the support of the community, Long became Louisiana's railroad commissioner in 1918, where he made a name for himself through a lifelong feud with Standard Oil, a company that dominated the Louisianian oil business at the time. The fortunes of Standard Oil made them an easy target for Long and his working-class voter base. A strong believer of populism, Long exploited the ideologies extensively in his own political career to gain a favorable relationship with the poor. Though Long lost his first bid for state governor, he campaigned aggressively during a second bid, making ambitious promises for when he'd enter office and appealing to the lower classes of Louisiana. He often made callbacks to his childhood struggles, attacked the corporations and rich of Louisiana, and acted as one of them. Long won the governor's race by a landslide, carrying over 2/3 of all the state's parishes, and gathering 44% of the vote over his two major opponents. It was clear that the poor were sick and tired of what they now considered as establishment politicians, who had become ineffective in leadership and failed to achieve anything. As governor, Long built a ruthless grip on power over the government of Louisiana, which sometimes violated Louisiana's constitution. Long filled every position he could with loyalists, centralizing power through the seat of the governor. After a failed impeachment attempt in 1929, Long hunted down and fired almost everyone who opposed him. Though some politicians deemed him a dictator, Long fulfilled his populist promises, and this style of governing allowed him to accomplish much more than his predecessors. Using his power, Long also implemented public programs to help serve the same voters who had made him governor. These programs were beneficial for the poor of Louisiana and sought to improve the quality of education within the state. Under Long's governorship, new schools were built that offered free textbooks for elementary schoolers and adult literacy classes. Because Long was ineligible to run as governor again in 1932, he ran for a Louisiana Senate seat. Long took off with the same vigor and determination and won the race in a landslide. While he finished his term as governor, he installed a puppet governor, Oscar K. Allen. This allowed him to continue to act as the de facto leader of Louisiana even after becoming a senator. Long stood out upon entering the Senate. He made clear that he would not cooperate with the moderates of the Democratic Party, often even collaborating with Senate Republicans to filibuster bills that he thought were too moderate. This established him very early on as one of President Franklin Roosevelt's few opponents in the left Senate. During almost any other part of American history, this standpoint would be regarded as insane, but the workers of America were desperate in the Great Depression, and Long capitalized on both their desire for a figure to cling to and their resentment of the upper class. This grew his support base among the working class. Having joined the Senate in 1932, Long witnessed the initial implementation of the New Deal and argued that they wouldn't be effective. In particular, Long pushed against the pro-business policies of the deal. Long believed that these policies mirrored the Hoover administration's economic policies and would be far too dangerous considering the state of the nation. Instead, he advocated for something far more radical, an extreme increase in the federal government's regulation on corporations. The Share Our Wealth program was perhaps the most infamous policy Long ever proposed. Many of the ideas proposed were so radical that they have yet to be implemented in any form to this day. It included, but was not limited to, a cap on all personal fortunes of $5 million, a cap on personal annual income of $1 million, government-paid college for youth of proven ability, max labor of 30 hours a week and 11 months a year, a promise to all American families of a yearly allowance of at least $5,000 a year and at least $2,000 to $3,000 annual income per family. This program gained incredible amounts of traction among the poor and dubbed him one of the most powerful men in the country. Long's Share Our Wealth program garnered many opponents who often claimed it as too socialist-leaning. Many economists also argue that the promises of Long's program was economically impossible. On Sunday, September 8th, 1935, Huey Long was assassinated. While he walked through a corridor with his bodyguards, Dr. Carl Weiss, the son-in-law of a political opponent, appeared from behind a pillar, walked towards them, raised a pistol, and shot Long. The state was taken completely off guard when Long died in the hospital on Tuesday, September 10th. One of the final things Long ever said was, "God, don't let me die. I have so much to do." After Long's funeral, his political allies, often referred to as Longites, swooped into the power vacuum of his empty seat. From 1935 to 1939, after Long's death, the Longites rarely faced any major political opposition. However, in a series of publicized trials involving tax evasion in 1939, many of these allies were found to be corrupt. Their total control over the government was lost as many of their ranks were imprisoned and much of the public turned against them. From then on, the Longite wing of the Democratic Party in Louisiana would only find some success, but never in the way they had before the trials. Although Long's populism took much longer to fizzle out in Louisiana, it quickly declined in most of the U.S. Without a figure as charismatic and powerful as Long, populism went dormant. This is due to the U.S.'s rivalry with the Soviet Union post-World War II. Leftist policies, which were massively popular just a decade or two earlier, became frowned upon and at worst treasonous. Once widely supported, Long's political ideologies were thus rejected. In spite of this, populist ideologies and tactics have slowly become popular again after the fall of the USSR. During Long's campaigns, he often portrayed himself as a member of working-class Louisiana. He recounted childhood stories, showed the blemishes of his clothing, and spoke personally to crowds. These tactics made him appeal to voters as he appeared equal to his supporters. While the politicians of today might not use the exact same examples, their usage of Long's doctrine is unparalleled. President Donald J. Trump is a right-wing populist. Trump, a hugely divisive public figure, fought his way through the party establishment to carve out an ideology of his own. Most importantly, he won the White House with successful appeals to the American middle class and presented himself as a relatable figure to the disenfranchised working class. Senator Bernie Sanders' proposed tax rates and social programs mirrors Long's. Sanders also prides himself on his prioritization of the interests of the American working class. Even comparably moderate former Vice President Joe Biden shares a focus on the plight of the American working class and attempts to appeal to voters as an average Joe. Huey Long was not a black and white figure. His dictatorship of Louisiana stands in stark contrast to the good that came of his public programs. Though his assassination was both a tragedy and a triumph for Louisianians, his campaigning tactics broke the barriers of a middle/working class society. Huey Long, through his campaigning style, the way he presented himself to voters, and the attention he got doing it, directly increased the number of middle/working class voters during the time period. In the 2020 presidential race, any candidate who has the ability to capitalize on that group may be the most divisive factor.